Alright. Sorry, greetings to all of you guys. This video is going to be in English. I think I'm going to do another video in English, and then the third one and probably the fourth one is going to be in Arabic. So the first two videos is in English or anglais, okay, and the other two videos is going to be in Arabic. By the way, greetings to all of you. Hassan Al-Badr with you. Atheist, anti-theist, whatever, okay. This video is called What Causes Gravity? There is no clash. That program presented by the BBC hostess, BBC presenter. What causes gravity? So let's take a listen and hear the pearls of wisdom.
Hi. If you grew up watching the Bugs Bunny cartoons like me, then you might have the impression that gravity only works if you walk off the edge of a cliff and look down. But in the real world, gravity is a force that exists among all material objects in the universe and attracts them towards each other. Without gravity, life as we know it on Earth would not exist. The Earth would stop orbiting the Sun and drift in different directions. The layers of the Earth, from the atmosphere to the soil and everything down to the crust, would drift away from the Earth. Even the Moon would drift away. So thank God for gravity. Back when a young Isaac Newton was sitting under an apple tree in his garden and an apple fell on his head, he concluded gravity must be pulling the apple down. But years later, Einstein had another theory. Gravity is not pulling us down, space is pushing us down. Einstein predicted that through gravity, objects actually warp the space-time around them, such that the movement of every object from a human to a supermassive black hole produces ripples in the space-time continuum. He used this analogy to explain it further. Just as a boat sailing through the ocean produces waves in the water, ripples, moving masses like stars or black holes produce gravitational waves, ripples in the fabric of space-time. On February the 11th, 2016, David Wright, the executive director of the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, reported that researchers had detected gravitational waves that were created by the merging of two black holes. This is quite an historic detection by all accounts and confirms a major prediction of Einstein's from over 100 years ago. But what's even more fascinating is that the Quran spoke of gravitational waves over 1400 years ago. To more clearly illustrate what these gravitational waves are like, Einstein himself, as well as physics professors and teachers alike, compare the movement of spatial bodies to a child's bounce on a trampoline. And in verse 11 of chapter 86 of the Quran, it is written, "By the heaven which is characterized by its bounce." The Quran swears by this unique characteristic function of the heavens, or space, as we commonly call it, by alluding to the distinct movement, the bounce, produced when heavenly bodies move in space. Now, staying within the gravity family, let's take a look at gravity's younger, lesser-known brother, microgravity. Question for you.
The verse says, with the sky that bounce, in Arabic is as-sama'u dhat al-raj'. Okay, and then the second verse is going to be the earth who cracks, or well, ardu dhat al-sada'. Bounce is one translation actually. It could be the sky who has a return, the sky who has a rebound, the sky who recomes. Okay, because even the Arabs during Muhammad's time, and nobody complained, also not even Muhammad complained about that explanation to the verse, which means that the sky actually comes or returns every year annually with rain. It returns with rain every year annually. So it's not a big deal. It's not about bounce. It's not about gravity. And yet again, I don't mind if it's mentioned gravity. Okay, I will say, okay, correct. Okay, the Quran is correct. Okay, it mentions gravity, although I strongly and highly doubt it. But let's say, okay, the Quran mentioned gravity. What kind of God that knows gravity and knows the gravity law and knows the gravity pull and attraction and everything and the bending of space and time and everything, and yet he creates earth before the sun? If God was really highly advanced with his knowledge in physics, he would have said, I created the sun, then I created the earth. But the Quran mentions clearly they created earth first, then created the sun, which is a huge physics error. Explain this to me, Miss Claire Forestier. How come a God who's really highly knowledgeable with physics mentioned the gravitational waves, and yet he makes such a huge error and such a huge mistake by creating earth first and then he created the sun? Can you explain this to me? According to physics, according to the laws of physics, according to the gravity law? I'm just wondering, really. Just pure logical wondering. How can he make such an error? Anyway, continue please. Because here we're going to see really, here, like in this video, you're going to see how Muslims actually play with the meaning of words. Like sometimes they mean other thing. And sometimes when it suits them, they mean other thing. It's the same word, by the way. The same exact word. The same vocabulary. No difference. The same exact word. You see it now. They're going to use it for gravity in this video. And I can also provide the proof that in other videos and in other such miraculous scientific claims, they mean other words or other meaning for it. Go ahead.
I say the word astronaut, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I'm going to go ahead and guess it's not the word swimmer, right? Because astronauts fly up into space the exact opposite direction from diving into the ocean. But did you know that astronauts have to be really good swimmers? Why do astronauts need to know how to swim so well? Because according to NASA, floating in space is a lot like floating in water. So much so that NASA has built a massive pool, 10 times larger than an Olympic-sized one, so their astronauts can train for spacewalks by going for a swim. The pool is called the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, and it simulates the conditions found in the weightlessness of space. The underground laboratory contains 6.2 million gallons of water and is used by astronauts decked out in their full spacesuits to carry out the tasks they'll be expected to perform in space. With the assistance of scuba divers, astronauts train 7 hours in the pool for every 1 hour they'll spend on a spacewalk. Interesting. There's no water on space, and yet NASA trains their astronauts for spacewalks in the world's largest swimming pool.
NASA trains their astronauts in water because water actually lightens your weight. It takes about 60% of your weight away, so it simulates a bit of the vacuum of how you gonna fly in no gravity. So it's not actually the real spacewalk, not even close actually, but it's just a matter of training. And because the astronaut suits, okay, they pump air in movements when they are really in no gravity areas, they pump air, and according to the Newtonian law, you know, every action has an equal opposite reaction. So in no gravity, when you pump air, that action pumps air this way, so the reaction pushes you back. So in water actually is much easier to assimilate such actions. In really clear air, you cannot do that. Okay, and plus in water you can swim and float, which resembles a bit the no gravity situation. Okay, it's not about meaning that there is water in space or there is something look like water in space, or the situation it's not even close to be looking like a water in space.
You know what else is interesting? The Quran linked space with water as well, when it said, "And it is he who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon, all in an orbit are swimming."
Actually, this verse exposes Allah that he doesn't know that the sun is stationary, because they had the old Ptolemies, you know, the old Ptolemy model, which they thought that it's a heliocentric, is the earth is at the center, and the moon and the sun orbit. So that's why Allah mentions also in the Quran that the moon and the sun, everyone in its orbit swimming. That's actually you exposing Quran here. You're not even helping Quran, by the way. And there is not even one verse in the Quran that mentions that earth orbits the sun. Not even one verse. And I double dare any Muslim to provide me this verse that says literally that the earth orbits the sun. On the contrary, we see here, "And it is he who created the night and day and the sun and the moon, all in an orbit are swimming. All in an orbit are swimming. Of course, there is also a prophet quote, when they ask him, what does that mean? All in their orbit. And they asked also the prophet when they said, when there was a verse in the Quran, it says that the sun will set down in a warm swamp, warm muddy swamp. Okay, and they asked the prophet, and the prophet, what did he say? He said, every day the sun, when it goes down, the sun moves. The sun, literally, the sun moves, not the earth. Every day the sun goes under the throne of Allah. And she asks his permission. Allah, may I rise again? And Allah tells her, yeah, you may rise again. Okay, gives her permission to rise again, to move again. Only on Judgment Day, he's going to tell her, no, go back where you came from. So according to Islamic scholars and according to all Islamic thought, that the sun on Judgment Day is going to rise from the west, not from the east. Again, very scientific, right? Very scientific. Explain this to me in physics. Explain it to me. And that also means that actually the throne of Allah is in our solar system. It's in our solar system. That means the throne of Allah is here. Let's go search for it. It's in our solar system because the sun goes under the throne of Allah. Allah sits on his throne. And the sun goes under the throne and asks him, Allah, may I rise again? Or no? And Allah tells her, yeah, you may rise again. And it goes rising again. And Allah, every day, Allah, may I rise again? Yeah, you may rise again. Only on the Judgment Day, Allah is going to tell her, no, come back where you came from. And the sun is going to go reverse. Very scientific, guys. Very scientific. Very high levels physics. Very high level physics. Really. Really. MIT, Stanford, Caltech, Cambridge, Oxford, the CERN, LIGO, the Planck Institute. They all want to study these huge physics. Really. It's very high level physics. Obviously. Very high level.
That's right. The Quran used the word swimming to emphasize the microgravity and weightless environment of space. Now let's take a quick look at the transmission of gravitational effect. After all, if space has waves and ripples like water, then what's to keep anything in its place and stop it from just floating off? 2 words, gravitational anchors, a term coined by the physicist Robert Tootle in 2012. To understand this better, let's borrow a beautiful analogy from the physicists Thomas van Flandern and Jean-Pierre Vigier, who explain the transmission of gravitational effects by asking us to imagine a buoy floating on the surface of the sea. The buoy is connected by a chain to an anchor that is holding it in place. If the anchor is moved, the chain causes the buoy to move too. In turn, the buoy's motion sets off waves in the water. If we translate this analogy into gravitational language, the anchor is the source mass, the chain is the gravitational force, and the buoy is the target mass. The waves in the water caused by the buoy's movement and induced by the motion of the anchor travel in the water and are analogous to gravitational waves. Fortunately for planet Earth, research has shown that our sun is the gravitational anchor of the solar system. At the same time, the black hole at the centre of nearly every galaxy, including our own, acts as a gravitational anchor for the galaxies, holding them together in space. When 1400 years ago, the Quran explained how the universe was created, it confirmed that the earth needs to be anchored by saying, and he, God, has dropped into the earth what anchors it, lest it should shift with you. In another verse, it is written...
Yeah, you see, here they use the word anchors, which is really funny way, which means rawasi, وَأَلْقَى فِيهَا rawasi in Arabic. And here, in this video, they mentioned that rawasi means the anchors for gravity. Really weird, because just like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the same exact word, anchors, they used it as وَأَلْقَى فِيهَا rawasi means the mountains. Only 20, 30 years ago, not even maybe 10 years ago, really. Which also, there is a prophet quote, and this prophet quote, by the way, it's called Hadithun Qudsi. That means it cannot be incorrect. Never. It can never be incorrect. And the prophet said that first God created the pen, okay? And he created Noon, which means the huge whale. Okay? And on the huge whale, he created the 7 earths. Technology. I'm speaking here, really high-level geology. Okay? And on the whale, he created the 7 earths. And the whale started shaking, started moving his back. The earth is on his back, so he started moving. So God put the anchors, وَأَلْقَى فِيهَا رَوَاسِي. Okay? He put the anchors on the, like he put nails on earth, you know? He put nails on earth, mountains, okay? So to make that the whale cannot shake earth, so that the earth stays steady, fast on the whale. Yeah, very scientific. Very, very scientific, really. Really. Where is that whale, Miss Claire Forestier? And by the way, Claire Forestier, I double dare you to go to any scholar, Muslim scholar, and deny this hadith. I double dare you. Nobody dares to deny it. Nobody. Because it's hadith Qudsi. Alright? That means it's literally like direct transmission from God to Muhammad. Okay? So yeah. And now you use the same word, anchors, rawasi. That's really funny. Really, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the Muslims were saying, yeah, alqa fiha rawasi, it's a miraculous claim because mountains, they have also a pebble under it, on the bottom of it, and that's a miraculous claim. How could Muhammad see the bottom of the mountain? And now it's been proven that the mountains, they had a bottom, and that's the anchor, that God meant it. And now, after the discovery of gravitational waves, you have the guts to say, no, actually, anchors means the gravitational waves. Yeah, the anchors for gravity. You see how Muslims play with words? The same exact word. The same exact word. Anchors. The same exact word. Just 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they said it was the mountains. And now, after the discovery of gravity, they changed the meaning. Now, it means the anchor for gravity. The same exact word. So which one is it? And it proves again, that Muslims are dumb and stupid. They don't understand their words of their God. A while ago, they say it's mountains. And now, physics showed gravitational waves is true and real. They say, no, it means anchor for gravity. You should be ashamed of yourself, really.
He, God, made in the earth what anchors it from high above. It's worth mentioning that the Quran uses the verb dropped and the term from high above it in the above verses because, interestingly enough, in 2016, David Wrights proved that gravitational waves from those colliding black holes in space pass through Earth. But there are some who would use the concept of gravity to go in the other direction and argue that there is no such thing as God. In his book, A Universe from Nothing, Why There Is Something Rather Than Nothing, Lawrence Krauss says that the total amount of energy in the universe is exactly zero. This is the case because the universe's positive energy in the form of matter is cancelled out by its negative energy in the form of gravity. In other words, gravity balances matter. Therefore, the net energy of the universe is zero, meaning that the universe is essentially nothing. Krauss argues that if the universe really adds up to nothing, then why must we feel compelled to invoke a God to explain its cause? Well, don't worry, Mr. Krauss. When you say gravity balances matter, the Quran addresses this too. The Quran points out that what anchors the earth balances everything when it says, "We have spread out the earth and dropped into earth what anchors it, gravity, and caused to grow therein of everything, matter, in due balance." So,
again, God meant here the mountains. ألقى فيها رواسي الأوتاد. Okay, this means mountains. It means literally mountains. Since when it meant gravity? I don't know how Muslims really jump in meanings of the verses. Really, they jump left or right. So where is it now? Is it the anchors of gravity or is it the mountains? If you say it's anchors for gravity, that means literally. That means God didn't create the mountains, because that's what the Muslims claim always. God created the mountains, etc., etc.
let's take a minute to appreciate this wonderful pull of nature we call gravity. Even though it often feels like gravity becomes 20 times stronger when your alarm clock starts to ring in the morning, without it, our world would quite literally be in chaos.
Well, that video finished, which we hear, as you see. She mentioned it herself, that the gravitational waves are discovered 2016. Einstein came with his theory 1916. So, a century before the discovery. Where were the Muslims during all this century? Did they mention gravitational waves? Literally, century has passed. Did they mention gravitational waves? No, they didn't. They didn't dare to mention it. They wait for modern physics to prove it, that it is real. Then they go to their book and change meanings, which anchors meant before mountains, and now they use the same word as for gravitational anchors. Really? Are you really that broke? Are you really that broke? You use the same exact word, the same exact vocabulary, but you use it for two meanings. Once it means mountains, and once it means the anchor for gravity. And by the way, the anchors for gravity cannot exist on Earth. Earth has one anchor, not anchors in plural. It has a singular anchor. If you are talking scientific and physics, Earth has one anchor. And Allah mentioned in the verse, He put down anchors of gravity. That means Allah is mistaken here. He's mentioning incorrect information. Earth has one anchor, okay? One, only one, singular, not plural, just like the Quran mentions. That's why the Quran mentions what he means here is the mountains, dear Claire Forestier. He doesn't mean the gravitational anchors, okay? Earth is one, so if you put Earth here, that's it. It creates one bend, not multiple bending in space and time. One bend only. That's one anchor. The sun also is one anchor. Every planet is a singular anchor of gravity on its own self. Every star is a singular anchor on itself, not anchors, plural, just like God made a mistake. So even your claim, you didn't examine it linguistically, you didn't examine it by the meaning of it, and plus you deny actually the quote, the hadith of the Prophet, which he literally says, it's mountains. So, do you dare, Miss Claire Forestier, to say that Muhammad was lying? And Muhammad was incorrect? I hope you do dare to say that in your video. Tell it as it is, that Muhammad was wrong when he mentioned that the anchors means mountains. Then I will take your word. But of course, nor you, nor any religious Muslim scholar or non-scholar dare to say that. They don't dare to say that Muhammad was wrong. So, in return, all your episode is BS. It's bullshit. With all due respect. And obviously the Muslims are still dumb and stupid and they don't understand the words of their God. It's been a century. Einstein, 1916. 1926, Muslims were quiet. 1936, Muslims were quiet. 1946, Muslims were quiet. 1956, Muslims were quiet. 66, Muslims were quiet. 76, quiet. 86, quiet. 96, quiet. 2006, quiet. 2016, still Muslims were quiet. After the discovery came out as a true fact, then Muslims had the guts to say, actually, it is mentioned in our book. Really? Then also admit your dumbness, your stupidness, okay? Admit it. Admit it, that you're dumb and stupid. You don't understand the words of your God. Admit it at least. At least be honest about it. Say, we are dumb and stupid. We don't understand the words of our God. And we are waiting for modern physics to explain to us the meaning of our God's words in the Quran. Because we are dumb and stupid. We don't understand Arabic. And obviously, modern physics understands Arabic more than us. Be honest. At least be honest. Well, that's the first video. Until soon, and I'll see you later in another video. And as usual, cheers, love and respect.